Hey guys, hello and welcome to another episode of the Quantum Paradigm Podcast. I'm really honored to be here with you today, and today's episode is a little different. The last 2 weeks, really ever since the Mars-Uranus conjunction, which happened on July 15th, the last 2 weeks have been pretty intense, especially for those watching the world stage in the United States, even those of us who don't watch the news, as I haven't watched the news in maybe 5 or 6 years, or maybe longer, as a spiritual practice. I don't. And it doesn't mean I'm disconnected from what's going on, but I'm very intentional with my vibration, and the news just doesn't fit into that. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying the world's been crazy for the last 2 weeks, and it felt really important today to have this episode be a little bit more of an instructive, like what to do when the world gets crazy, so that you can not only bring more peace of mind into your personal life, but also as a leader, because the people who listen to this podcast are typically leaders, business owners, healers, guides, people who are responsible for others in their lives, right? And so what can we do as leaders when the going gets rough around us, okay? Full disclosure, I've been going through my own transformation behind the scenes the last 2 weeks. I've had some really high highs. I've had some really unexpected lows, and the joke has been with myself and my close friends that I've learned about 6 years worth of lessons in the last 6 days. Very grateful for them, and integrating all of them and coming out wiser, stronger, more ready to tackle this version of Allison Alchemia, who is coming through strong and ready to lead the leaders of this new earth. So all of that in mind, what can we do when it gets crazy, when the going gets rough, right? We get to have this sacred responsibility of taking, this is maybe perhaps not what you would expect me to say. And I have to apologize on the front end. I'm a little under the weather today, so my energy is a little lower, and I think that's by design as well. I'm a little bit more somber and more sober and a little less excited, and that's great actually for today's message, because the truth of today's transmission is quite unsexy, but it's the one thing that does get results in business, in life, and it's also the one thing that will keep you steady when everything around you looks like it's just going to hell, okay, so to speak. And that one thing that you can do right now, that one thing, is to take radical responsibility for everything in your life. Probably not what you expected me to say, right? When the world's going crazy and everything is going nuts around you, what's the one thing you can do to stabilize? To stabilize yourself, you, your family, your business, your clients, even your team if you have a team. You and I can take radical responsibility for everything in our lives. That includes what we are ingesting via the news sources. That includes what we are putting into our bodies with our food. That includes the thoughts that we allow to come through, right? Taking radical responsibility, and also for the results in our businesses and the results that we're seeing with our teams and our team members, right? I don't care how fancy your brand is. I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care if you're world famous. I don't care how large your team is or how many subscribers you have on your newsletter, email subscribers. None of that matters. Do you know what matters, my friend? Whether you take personal responsibility for the results that you are getting or not getting in your business, in your life, in your team. If if you have things happening with your team and you're not willing to take responsibility, guess what? That's all fine and good, but it's going to come crashing down at some point. The energetic cornerstone of your business is not stable. It's not stable. And what happens when we have an unstable foundation? The building collapses, right? So I'm going a little bit on a tirade there, but I hope you can hear what I'm saying from a personal standpoint, and as leaders. If you consider yourself a leader of anything, even if you're just leading yourself at this point in time, whether it's just you, whether you are a parent, whether you're a business owner, if you consider yourself in a point of leadership, and honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, I guarantee you are in an aspect of leadership. It is incumbent upon you to take radical responsibility for everything you have manifested up until this point. All of it. I just went through something ridiculously crazy behind the scenes, and some really awesome stuff, by the way, that I cannot wait to share with my audience. Oh my God, but it's such an amazing development. I have to take some weeks and maybe even a month or two to really, really package this in a way that serves to the highest possibility. But anyway, there have been some things that have honestly gone to shit behind the scenes too. I take responsibility, right? And it's only from that point that we have the power to change our circumstances if we are taking that radical responsibility every step of the way, okay? Now, there's a little bit of a dance with this too. Some of us leaders, it's like I see two different kinds. I see the kinds that take no responsibility and it's always someone else's fault. It's the team's fault, or it's the economy's fault, or it's this fault, or it's the timing, or this or that. That's all bullshit, okay? There's that kind of a quote unquote leader. And then there's the type that takes a lot of radical responsibility, and then it can also go a little too far off the deep end into like self-blame and shame and like, this is all my fault. Okay, so that's where we bring the frequency. This is the Quantum Paradigm Podcast, right? That's where we bring frequency to the mix and say, okay, where are we operating on our frequency? We can take radical responsibility and stay in a frequency that is high enough to serve the greater good and to serve our soul mission without getting stuck in this self-blame, self-shame kind of bullshit either. Because that's kind of like the inverted geometry of the version that I mentioned before that was like, blame shifting everything. Okay. So two sides of the same coin, neither one of them are going to get results. They're both a big waste of time. So once radical responsibility is taken and we look around and it's like, okay, the buck stops here. That's when you have power. That's when you take your power back and you have the opportunity to shift some things. There was a point in time, I think I might have mentioned this on one of the latest episodes, maybe. I called a team meeting and I was like, look, I'm going to point the finger right here first. Okay. We leaders go first. There were some results that I was not getting in business that I was expecting to get. And it's like, okay, where do I have to look? I have to look in the mirror first and foremost, right? And hold that girl accountable. And then lead my team by example. This is about true leadership. Having followers does not make you a leader. I mean, it kind of does by default, but that doesn't mean that you are a leader. It just means that you have people following you. It doesn't mean that you know what the hell you're doing. A leader knows that they are first. They go first into the line of fire, so to speak. If a general is leading an army, they know that they are the ones responsible. They are making the decisions. They are going first, right? Cowardice has no place in the new earth. It has no place in the new paradigm. Courage, strength of heart, conviction, authenticity, Integrity and transparency is the way of the future. And if you are calling yourself a leader of any kind, I want you to pause, hit that rewind by 15 seconds button on your device, and listen to those words that I just said. And ask yourself, am I calling myself to the highest possible level of courage, strength of heart, authenticity, integrity, transparency, right? Those are the marks of a leader. The person who cares about how they are presenting to the public and making sure that everything on the back end is matching up with everything on the front end. That is the mark of a leader. There are plenty of famous and wealthy people out there who are cowards, who we've looked to and put on pedestals and followed. And they are not true, and they know it, and they don't care. And it is up to us to take the baton and to call ourselves to the highest form of integrity that we possibly can before we go and we serve one client, before we go and we lead our children, before we go and we say we have any ideology about any paradigm or any opinion about anything. Like, shut up and look inwardly first and make sure that you are true before you go and you tell anyone else that they should or shouldn't do anything, right? I don't even like that word should or shouldn't, but you know what I'm saying here. Call yourself to account first, my friend. And one of the things that I really will never shut up about is like having systems in place to hold yourself accountable to these things, to transparency, to integrity and authenticity, right? That's why we have coaches. That's why we have guides. That's why we have people in our corners who are like, hey, like, do you see that blind spot right there? It's like, oh, thank you, right? Because we all have blind spots. We all do. We're just human. It's all good. Like I say, we're just human. And it's just, I think I'm going in so many different directions. My brain is doing so many things right now. When we have the online space, it is so easy to hide behind a screen and say all kinds of things. But if we're not holding ourselves to account, we are sowing some pretty serious karmic seeds, right? So this message is for the New Earth leaders. This message is for the new paradigm leaders. This is for the healers, the guides, the entrepreneurs of this age who know that they have downloaded messages, who know that they have messages that the collective need to hear. It is very important because our words are spells, and we can dream cast and dream spell to people and lead them. And we're either leading them into frequencies that are going to not serve them as well, or we're going to lead them to the highest version of who they are. And that's where I want to stop right here and remind you, you have the power. You are the most powerful force in the known universe. Don't put anyone on a pedestal. Don't put anybody on a pedestal. Don't believe that anybody knows better than you do. Okay? That doesn't mean you can't learn from a mentor. That doesn't mean that you can't, assimilate knowledge from others. That's awesome. That's beautiful. But don't give your power away to anyone. You keep that precious, beautiful energy in your own system and ask yourself, what are my giftings unique to me that are going to resonate with my people and guide my people? I know that this episode has been all over the place. I hope that this is resonating and you are feeling the transmission that is coming through, right? Because with leadership comes a lot of responsibility. It truly does. And humility is required. It's required. You can have surface level success without it. Sure, you can. You can have a worldly success even, right? It won't last. I mean, I'm here to tell you it will not last. The way that things are going, we are evolving. The collective is evolving. The world is changing big time, as we do see in the news and everything. Like, we are being called to a much deeper level of being, right? That's really all I'm sitting here talking about, is being, how we get to be, how we choose to be. We are fully conscious. I don't know if we're all fully aware. There's different levels of awareness, but we're all fully conscious, whether we want to admit that or not. That's where we take responsibility, right? Right? Sit down with your journal, go outside into nature, take a few deep breaths, do a couple of yoga poses, go for a walk, do whatever you need to do to drop in with your deeper knowing, your deeper self, and ask yourself, am I taking responsibility for me, for my life, for my business? Am I leading by example, right? Not just talking and casting spells, but am I leading by example? Am I walking my talk rather than just talking my talk? Okay. I'm going to leave this episode here, mainly because my energy, like I said, I'm under the weather. But before I leave you, I want to share that the Unleash Your Inner Magician journey, this 22-day manifestation journey, is available. This is where we take your human design chart, we take specific manifestation journal prompts, we marry them together. This is a course that once you have it, you always have it. You can come back to it. I think I launched this at the beginning of the year, kind of like as a New Year's deal, but I love recommending this, especially around this time of year, around Leo season, mid-year. This is a beautiful time to start thinking about Q3, Q4. How do we want to wrap up the year? What do we want to manifest? How do we want to go deeper with these manifestation powers? Because if you're listening carefully, and while I'm talking about radical responsibility, you will remember that we are manifesting 24/7. All the time. We have manifested this entire reality. And once that's truly recognized, then we get to consciously go in there and go into the manifestation journey. 22 days, I think it's like 10 minutes a day. This course is amazing. People are still giving me feedback. New students are giving feedback about how much they are learning, especially about their relationship with money. One of the most beautiful resources that we have in our society at this point in time, what the universe loves to give us to support us in our soul's mission, right? So the students going through it have given incredible feedback about just how they are changing their relationship with money for the rest of their lives. This is something that will serve you forever. So head over, if you're listening on Instagram, you can find it on my bio. It's at Alchemy with Allison. You can also DM me there if you're having trouble finding the link. Also on Facebook, I think this airs on Facebook, and of course it airs on all the podcasts as well. I'm going to go and drink some hot tea and take a little nap and get my body and my system a little bit more ready for the week. Thanks for hanging in on this episode, guys. I love you, and I will see you next week. Bye.